So climate-related hazards, what are they? These are the kind of climate-induced storms or changes in conditions that we are going to or likely to see that we've never seen before. So along the coastlines, we're likely to see sea level change. We might see submersion of areas or exposure of areas. Changes in storm surges are likely to cause changes in our deposition and erosion issues. We can see changes in flooding regimes inland in terms of more flashier storms, or in the area southwest, we're going to see an increase in droughts. That means that we could see along the coastline changes in groundwater tables as saltwater intrudes, but inland we could see a loss of groundwater supplies, and so water becomes a shortage issue. We're likely to see changes in precipitation, again, on both ends of the spectrum. So we're talking about flooding in certain areas and drought in others. With the change in climate, we're likely to see changes in air and water temperatures. That's going to magnify storms. That's also going to intensify the drought conditions. We're likely to see acidification in the oceans, which is going to cause a loss of species. And we are definitely already seeing permafrost melt, which is resulting in a loss of land, but also slumping along the coastlines, for example, in Alaska. And then last but not least, kind of as each of these hazards or these climate-induced changes are felt or experienced, there's secondary and tertiary events that we are going to need to project. And so this last bullet, for example, fire regimes, is not directly caused maybe by climate change, but it's caused by the ramifications of drought and the ramifications of increased storms. And so we're seeing more lightning hits, which is causing more wildfires. We're also seeing droughts, which is leading to either anthropomorphic-induced, human-induced fires, or lightning strike fires. All of this is causing biomes to shift. So ecosystems are responding, and as a result, fire is causing significant changes from forest to savanna, for example. So we need to talk about this in terms of systems. There are built systems, there are natural systems, and then there are human systems. And as we look at these kinds of networks, we're starting to look at the supply of goods and services within a community or region. Built systems tend to refer to facilities, buildings, transportation networks, roads and bridges, for example. Natural systems are more the greener side of the ecosystem. These are ecological networks that supply and support fish and wildlife, but also, water, which is something that supplies the human systems. And then at the very end, we're talking about human systems, how we look at these systems in terms of networks, how we supply emergency support systems, how we inform government, how the government actually functions as a result. These systems, each one can be vulnerable, or together as a total ecosystem from a holistic perspective can be vulnerable. The word vulnerability then is tied to the ideas of being unable to cope with something that's adversely affecting you. And we're specifically talking in this class about these adverse effects being delivered by climate change over time. And we want to talk about the fact that these are variable and there are extremes that we need to be planning for. Oftentimes, scientists or planners label this in terms of the character or the magnitude or even the rate of variation of climate change that we're seeing, and that leads to three things that we can target on a system or map out. One of them is exposure, one of them is sensitivity, and one of them is adaptive capacity. And so we have to ask the question, is the system vulnerable as a result of being exposed, being sensitive, or being unable to adapt?